yeah, it started as a passion project, but when we put it out there, the response, especially from Somalis, was so overwhelming, really. Like people recognizing places that they hadn't seen maybe since leaving. Younger generations, like their children who had maybe never been, they also contacted us and said, "Oh wow, my parents were so emotional." We showed them the pictures, we looked at them together. I have never seen Somalia like this. It was really such an emotional process, and it felt like you shared this yeah, personal piece because essentially they're holiday photos that my mom took.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the Pay Me in Plane Tickets podcast, and I'm your host, Jelani. Today we talk with Miss Sara Jabril. Although stationed in Berlin, she's been racking up quite the country count in Africa. She's the founding curator of the Duka Hoya project, which highlights the beauties of Somalia through photography and community. She, alongside with her co-founder, hosts an ongoing, expertly crafted list of Black-owned hotels and/or lodging properties that are situated all throughout Africa. Sara's on a mission to debunk the fallacies about Africa, and this is her story. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
The background as well, and just the vibe, gaming and plane tickets. Really, the name I can relate to a lot.
We share that commonality. So, Sara, I had discovered you through Travel Noir, actually, and they did like a nice piece on you. And so I learned that you're from Berlin, and you're pretty big in invested in the African diaspora. So, just early days, can you give us a little bit about yourself, where you're from?
Sure, yes, a bit of a background or a summary of me. Sarah, yes, I'm from Berlin, which is where I'm right now. Lovely spring in Berlin. And yeah, I was born and grew up here. My mom is German. My dad is from Somalia. So I think this also explains my focus on travel in Africa specifically, because I always grew up with these two sides, two cultures. Yeah, and also the desire to always learn more about the African continent, explore a little bit more. And this is also where my work eventually led me. So I work in international development and started doing some projects that are focused, yeah, on different topics, different African countries. And that is really what sparked also my interest in traveling there more. So I think the first job, actually as an intern, I went to Tanzania in Arusha and did an
Wow.
internship there, yeah, with the same organization that I'm still with now. And that for me was just mind blowing. I felt like, yeah, even as someone with African roots, African heritage, it was still such an amazing experience to be there for the first time. To also still have your own biases checked somehow. I almost felt like, oh, they've been lying to me, even, all these things that, yeah, you were influenced by, even as someone who, is Black growing up in Germany, what they tell you about the African continent. So really having this process of debunking that in my mind slowly and then just thinking, okay, I need to explore more. I need to travel more. I want to see as much of this continent as I possibly can. And then also share my experience because I feel like also when I talk to friends, especially back in Europe, the questions I often got about different locations and destinations were also, yeah, just showed that we have the skewed picture of the African continent still. So it was really important for me to be on this journey to travel Africa, but then also share that through. First, I started with photography and now moved more into videography, where I'm
No,
at
that's
now.
no, very well put. I think it's very important to shed a different perspective on Africa. There has been a light that I do agree with you. It has been negative and not or not fully told. And so I do agree with that. And then travel does help with spreading that message, and you definitely are sharing that story. But you led right into my next question. You started off with photography, so you had a photography project, and I'm going to butcher the name, but I'm gonna try. Is it
Cool.
Duka Hoya? Am I saying it
Hoyo.
right? Hoyo. Oh,
Not the
okay.
Hoyo project. Yes, but very close. Very good.
So you had the Duka Hoya photography project.
Yes.
May you speak a little bit about that? Because that was very interesting.
Yeah, sure. And I think that was also what the travel noir piece focused on. So yeah, I'm sure
Exactly.
you read about that.
That was the grab right there.
Perfect. I'm really glad. I'm always happy when yeah, people contact me about that project specifically because it's very close to my heart. So yeah, in the same vein of wanting to really, I don't know, try and do my part in changing this narrative a little bit. If we talk about Africa in general, and specifically places like Somalia, where I think it's even worse when we talk about the picture that the international media or mainstream media paints in particular. And
Yes.
again, doesn't mean that these things are untrue, right? There are a lot of issues everywhere. But like you also said before, it's always this problem, I think, when we have the skewed image and we just focus on one side, there are always different sides to a story.
Exactly.
And but it's also a fact that yeah, Somalia has been unfortunately marked by conflict ever since I was born, really. So the civil war started just a few months, maybe a year after I was born. So that was also why most of my family came to Europe. Some went to the States, actually. And because the conflict was also so long, it was never really possible to go back a lot. Also, when I talk to other friends in the African diaspora who maybe grew up in Europe or the States, some of them always tell me that maybe every year, you know, they went back to, let's say, Ghana or Nigeria, which is amazing. I love that. But I think as someone with a Somali parent or yeah, that link to Somalia, a place that has been marked by conflict, unfortunately, we didn't have that opportunity. So I think this whole discussion that we're having about the image of Africa is even more true for Somalia. And this also affected me a little bit because all you hear on the news is negative stuff, but
Yes, very true.
essentially,
Yes.
yeah, when people think about Somalia, they think maybe about pirates now, yeah, about
Yeah.
conflict, about war, about Al-Shabaab terrorism, which is really sad. So um, basically, what happened was my mom visited Somalia twice in the 80s, and she had a really cool analog like film camera with her and documented everything. So my dad is from Mogadishu, the capital. So they were there, but they also did a road trip down south, different places. So she was able to document all of this. And by chance, I rediscovered these images. I think it was around 2016, 2017. And I kind of knew they existed. I had seen them when I was younger, but I think at the time I just didn't realize how special they really were. So when I saw them again, um, with my new mindset of being more focused on traveling in Africa, changing some narratives, you know, people need to know about other sides, other stories about the continent. I just looked at these pictures again and I thought, wow, this is really something. Like most people have never seen Somalia like this, probably. So we can't just keep these pictures stored in a box at home. That would be a crime. We need to put them out there. So I talked to my mom and I was like, Mom, we have to like I have to digitally like, you know, restore them, edit them a little bit. Then we're going to create a website and we're going to do a digital gallery with all of these photos. And she was like, okay, if we could do that, let's do that. And yeah, that was kind of a passion project. I started and I named it Dulkahoyo project because Dulkahoyo means like homeland or motherland in Somali. So I thought that was a fitting name.
Touching. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it started as a passion project, but when we put it out there, the response, especially from Somalis, had was so overwhelming, really. Like people recognizing places that they hadn't seen maybe since leaving, younger generations, like their children who had maybe never been, they also contacted us and said, "Oh wow, my parents were so emotional. We showed them the pictures, we looked at them together. I have never seen Somalia like this." It was really such an emotional process, and it felt like you shared this yeah, personal piece because essentially they're holiday photos that my mom took with a larger international audience, and it was so nice that yeah, the response was so positive.
Wow, that's beautiful to hear. And how long did it take for you to sort of curate this project? It seems like it took time.
Yeah, the website was the most difficult because that was the first time I had ever tried to build a website because I thought, oh God, I have to put
They're
them
not
out
easy.
there. Yes. I mean, I tried, you know, through some of these
Yeah.
providers that you have that make it a little bit easier, but it's still, I think it took me all in all like almost 3 months,
Oh,
really complete
okay. And
everything.
then how soon was the response? You did mention this visceral response that came out.
Yeah, immediately, I think.
Yeah.
At the time I tweeted about it and my phone was blowing up. It was amazing. Like we got so many messages and people shared the link. It was so, so nice. And even like some years later, I still get friends messaging me sometimes. For example, a friend said, I can't remember where she was. Was she in Canada or somewhere in the States? And she said, I just had an Uber driver who's Somali, and I told him about your project, and he already knew about it. I
Oh
was like, oh my God,
wow.
this is
Wow,
amazing.
so it was already pretty much buzzing.
I think within the Somali community, yeah, I was very happy that so many people, yeah, and enjoyed the pictures and shared it so widely.
Yes, word does spread fast
Yes,
in Africa. And in Somalia, of course, you have that family, it's very close-knit family, everybody speaking. So
definitely, yes. And Somali Twitter was very active.
so did this start your journeys through Africa, visiting many different countries and many different cultures, or was it already part of your system and this project added to it?
Yeah, it added to it, I think, because all the thoughts were already there. That also kind of sparked the idea to put it out there. And by that time, I had already been in Tanzania. And yeah, so that, I don't know, fire grew. I really thought I want to work in Africa, I want to live there, I want to travel,
Wow.
I want to see as much as I can. And I lived in on the continent in South Africa until November last year. So I just moved
Okay.
back to Germany. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. I love South Africa.
Yes. Also a great place.
Great place, definitely, definitely. Okay, so how long were you in did you spend in Africa? Because I know you've been traveling for work as well. So how long would you say you've been in Africa?
I just had, after my time in Tanzania, I had a brief time back in London and I worked in London for a year and then decided, no, I can't do this anymore. I need to be on the continent.
I love it.
That was 2017. So I think for the last 6 years or so, yeah,
Okay.
I was living and traveling in Africa, which has been amazing. And luckily now the new job I got, even though I'm based in Berlin again, I still get to travel for work as well. So I try to combine it with personal trips as well as much as I can.
That's the best way to do it. I love hearing that. Your profile also mentions black ownership. You do also highlight um hospitality and restaurants as something that you also take into your calculus of promoting black ownership within Africa, which is very important because normally when you hear black ownership, you're hearing it in different countries that aren't black dominated, but you're like, hey, look, we need to also own in our own land. Can you speak a little more about that?
Yes, so again, this whole journey of someone from the African diaspora, like relocating or spending more time on the continent, it's also a learning journey, really. And I also realized I was speaking about maybe my own biases before, also that I was a bit naive when it came to certain things. For example, I just assumed, of course, the majority of hotels will be owned by Africans, right?
Right.
And you're
You
like,
would
can
think.
you would think. Um, but sadly, the way the histories and the legacies are in those countries, I realized, oh no, this is not actually the case. A lot of big hotels, the ones that are very profitable, and generally businesses are actually not owned by locally owned or black owned. We also sometimes talk about what the term really means. But yeah, I thought, wow, this is really interesting. So when I started to research or wanting to make like a personal effort to also support black businesses, especially black owned hotels when I travel, I realized also in terms of research, it's really tedious. It's not easy sometimes to find it, to establish who owns this place. Um, and what's amazing, I think, about the travel community in general, especially the people who are interested in Africa-focused travel, it's an amazing space. And I connected with an amazing woman, Fatimatu, who runs an Instagram page, Sleep in Africa. I don't know if you know about this. You need to follow them. They're amazing. Yes. So she highlights, yeah, unique places to stay in Africa. So not just hotels, but also Airbnbs, different rentals that are maybe a bit, yeah, sometimes a bit quirky, a bit different than your standard chain hotel. And I connected with her for a while and we've been chatting. And at some point we were chatting and talked about this issue of Black ownership in the Africa travel space. And we were basically complaining how difficult it is sometimes to find a list or guide And at some point, then I said to her, maybe we should just do it then, We're
Mhm.
complaining here that this doesn't exist. So maybe we need to do like a guide of or a list of Black-owned hotels in Africa. And we both were like, yes, we just need to do this. And this is how this guide to Black-owned hotels and rentals in Africa started that I, yeah, partnered with Sleep in Africa on. So this is also on my website. You can follow Sleep in Africa on Instagram. Fatih has an amazing series called Black Owned Tuesday. So every Tuesday she tries to post a reel or post about a Black-owned hotel. So this is also a nice way to get the word out there, yeah, and highlight this topic.
Okay, I love it. I and as a I'd say I am a bit of a hotel junkie. I have
Mhm.
like my own little pinky up with hotels. I'm interested in this. It is very tedious to figure out who actually owns a hotel.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, it's a lot of different entities can own a particular building. So,
So true. And that's even when we did the list, we started with an Excel sheet, and also Fatty's based in Canada. I was in South
right.
Africa at the time. So we were just working online together. I started an Excel sheet with different hotels we found online, recommendations we got, and then just split the list basically and contacted them all to verify who's the owner.
Right.
Really be sure that it's Black ownership. But questions like this popped up as well. For example, if three people or even organizations maybe own an hotel, it's difficult. Do we count it as Black owned?
Right. Right.
And we kind of said it has to be at least 50% Black owned. So if two people own it, then we can count it. But we had cases where maybe three people own it and only one person is Black. Then we said, okay, maybe for now, then we won't count them. But yeah, we really thought about how to present this list and what our own criteria are. And we also discussed this term Black owned. What do we mean by that? Because I think often in the travel space, we talk about local tourism, local businesses, but sometimes it might be a bit different compared to what we mean by Black ownership. For example, we had the case of one establishment in South Africa, actually, which was owned by a Black American owner.
Right.
And then, yeah, we discussed it as well. Okay, it's not locally owned, but it's Black owned. And especially in a country and with the history in South Africa, at least we would argue
Yeah.
there are still many hurdles, I think, for a Black person to own a business. So we decided to make it a little bit broader and look at Black owned. But most of the hotels actually on our list are Black owned and locally owned, I would say. There are just a few cases where maybe it's someone from a different country.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear because most times when you think of hotel development, it's never really locally owned.
Yeah.
The land is by international entity or whatever it is, or international individual. And it's just the care is different. So I'm shocked to actually hear that it's your list is comprised of locally owned mainly, which is funny.
Yeah, a lot of smaller hotels, I think there's a difference. It's really hard, I think, to have local ownership with those bigger hotels,
Okay.
just given the costs and all these issues of land that you
Yeah.
just mentioned. And we also realized that platforms like Airbnbs or just rentals, smaller rentals, it's
Yeah.
much easier for people to, yeah, start a smaller business in the
Yeah.
hospitality and travel space rather than starting a hotel. But there are also people, which is nice to hear, who managed to start hotels, which have grown into chains even. I have this also just a shameless plug to my YouTube
Yeah.
channel,
Do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
which focuses on Africa travel as well. There's an amazing yeah, chain of luxury safari lodges in southern Africa. They are in three countries now, which was started by a former guide, a safari guide, Bex Ndlovu. So this is a bigger chain even, and they have luxury lodges. I was lucky enough to stay at two of them. I also documented my experience. You can watch the YouTube videos. So yeah, we have a range from smaller Airbnbs all the way to something that has grown into like a luxury safari business. It's so
Wow.
nice to see these Black owners thrive, really.
Yes, it's wonderful to hear, and it's very vital for the community as well.
Yeah.
Uh, Especially in South Africa. I
Mhm.
did do a safari, and I learned the I think the game range was gifted from some grandfather, and like just got this massive land, and he just sits on it. I just said, "Wow, that's
Yeah.
what a life to have."
Yeah.
um, I asked this question to those who do discuss hotels. And the purpose of being locally owned is also you maintain the neighborhood and the culture. Because a lot of times when you do have not just a big brand hotel, but even a hotel that isn't as involved in the community, ends up changing the community differently because you have a different crowd coming. There's a different level of care to the land or the people or to that environment. Do you see that as well with the benefit of being locally owned or even black owned hotels?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a recent example for this. Also not easy. I was visiting Zanzibar again recently, and I really wanted to find out more about Black-owned hotels, which was not easy, really. And luckily, I got a recommendation again from the amazing network just on social media where people help each other out of a hotel, Mango Beach House. It's in Jambiani on the East Coast. We're working on a YouTube video, so stay
Hey,
tuned.
let's do it. Let's
Um,
do it.
but that was a really nice example because it was really right next to the local village, and it was owned by a black person from Zanzibar, locally owned. And we did an interview with him. His name is Kiddo, and he really explained, yeah, told us about starting the hotel and how the area has changed as well. Because I mean, Zanzibar is so popular,
Yeah.
it's in high demand. And he said when he started together with his wife, there were not many hotels around actually on the beach, and that has really changed in like the last, I don't know, 10 years. And now the whole beachfront is basically full of hotels. And when you walk down the beach, you can really see the difference between most hotels and his place, which is just different. It just has more of a, I don't know how to explain it. You can really see that I think him and his wife, they wanted to make it their own.
Okay.
Um,
Like more authentic or
More
homey.
authentic, yeah, for lack of a
Okay.
better word, I would say. Also a bit more quirky. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. Kept a lot of the palm trees there, and not too polished and square and
I see.
everything. Straight lines. You can see
Right.
someone basically decimated everything and built something from scratch. But there, they just integrated everything more with what was already there. So you can really see the difference there sometimes. And then also the people who work there. I think sometimes. For example, Zanzibar, you have a lot of people from mainland actually who come and work in Zanzibar in the hospitality area and hotels. But in this case, for example, for the hotel, everyone was also from around. So they were also a tight-knit community. They had worked together for a long time.
Yeah.
And Kido was also telling us in the interview we did that with high and low season in Zanzibar, you often have work on a contract basis if you work for a hotel. So in high season, you have work, and then basically you don't work anymore when it's low season. And he said this is a real issue for people. And he really, really tries to make an effort to keep like whoever works for him, they are there as full-time staff, whether it's high season or low season. And
Wow.
also takes some
Yeah.
sacrifices. But I think you have a different way of relating to people if you know people's backgrounds and also what they're going through, because it's not like, your family life or your
Right.
personal life stops having expenses just because it's low season in Zanzibar. So yeah, these things are very interesting, complex issues to
Yeah.
talk about, especially with people who know about it, like people like Kiddo who runs this amazing hotel.
I see. Yeah, no, and that's impressive to hear that because to have that level of care for your employees, it's almost you have to come from that community and understand kind of the situation they're going through. That's not something you can teach to any old body. You have to almost be born there.
Yeah.
I can agree with that. Do you have high hopes for the uh black hotel industry or an Airbnb? We'll lump them all together. The hospitality.
Yeah, definitely. I really think there's also a nice trend or this momentum all the way from the year of return, where Ghana did a brilliant job, I think also
Yeah.
marketing, tourism,
They did.
especially for African Americans, and just international travelers, especially those who, yeah, maybe are from the diaspora or are Black, who even, also have this, I don't know, different kind of relating maybe or thinking about different, yeah, ways they want to contribute or use their purchasing power. So I think there's, yeah, a good trend going on that people are more interested to find out more how they can support Black ownership, local ownership. So I really hope it will grow and, yeah, benefit communities because really that would be the hope that the money really goes more to people who live around and who really make the place special.
Yeah, no, very true, very true. I have high hopes as well. So, are you gonna open up your own hotel one day? Are we gonna look for that?
I would love to. Yes, maybe. I never thought about that. You just put an idea.
Hey, there it is.
Yeah, I think I would be a nice host, actually.
I think given your knowledge and your care, I think you'll be perfect.
Oh, thank
You'll
you.
fit it.
You'll be the first guest for sure. You'll get the invite.
Awesome. Great, great, great.
Yeah.
Uh, so I have a question. So you've been to several different African countries. Um, which was your most favorite in terms of I just love it here? And then which one also I would say off kind of gave you a lot of knowledge about a place that you might have had a misconstrued notion about it. So it
That's
changed
a
your
really
thoughts.
good question. Yeah. Um, One place I really, really love and always go back to, and I also have some work there. Luckily for me, it's Senegal. And I also did a YouTube video because everyone always asks me, why do you love Senegal so much? So I was like, okay, I'll make a video about why I love it so much and why people should go there.
uh,
But yeah, I think it's from a personal perspective as well, because I lived or relied so much on stories about Somalia growing up because we couldn't go there. So
I
all the
see.
stories that my dad told me about Somalia had kind of painted this picture in my head. And for some reason, when I went to Senegal for the first time, I was like, oh, this is how I imagine Somalia. This feels so nice because there's a lot of overlap. It's Somalia is the easternmost point on mainland Africa. Senegal is right on the other side, the
Yeah.
westernmost point. The religion, a little bit of the culture and the food, fishing tradition. So a lot of it spoke to me, and I just really love being there for that reason. But I think also, if you maybe are not half Somali, I think you will love it there. And I know a lot of people who love it there as well, just because it's very peaceful as well, safe. People are extremely friendly. The food is amazing. I think some of the best food on the continent. And yeah, there's a lot to do as well. So I would say Senegal is a place I really, really love and I would always recommend as a travel destination in Africa. And then your second question is very interesting. Maybe like an obvious answer would be South Africa, just because of the history.
Yeah.
And it was, yeah, but maybe also my personal perspective because I moved there for work and I had never been. So I got on the plane, didn't really know what to
Oh,
expect.
it's fresh.
Yeah. Um, and going there as someone who's half white, half black, with the history, it was a very interesting experience. I think you really also have to be there, maybe visit the museums, talk to people to really scratch the surface because I really feel like
Yeah.
you can't go there and understand properly. Um, yeah, because it's just such a
It's a
scarring, violent history and horrible history, but at the same time, it's such an amazing, hopeful, beautiful country where people laugh a lot and find humor in everything, even the worst moments. And yeah, South Africa is a really interesting country where you will learn a lot, I think.
Okay. So Senegal and Somalia, you highly recommend, and
South Africa, yeah.
and then
Somalia,
South.
I'm not sure if I can recommend it as a travel destination. Let me go there first and then I will tell people.
Well, I've heard Senegal. A few notables have mentioned Senegal
Mhm.
as a
Yeah,
top
yeah,
destination, as the sort of the new hotspot. Somebody should check
I
out.
think so. Yes. And people always ask, is it a problem if I don't speak French? It's a bit tricky, but it's, I think, manageable, especially in Dakar, in the capital. I had friends from actually who live in Nairobi who went there and they really loved it. Yeah, language barrier. Sometimes it adds to the fun experience as well to try and find your way. But
Have a little struggle in there. It's not
yeah,
too
you have a little struggle.
bad. And then yeah, South Africa has this like I guess bipolar sort of uh energy to it.
Good
You know,
word for
yeah,
it, I think. Yeah.
yeah. Um, it's African, but with kind of like this. German language or around there, and so you're trying to get used to everything, and the history's sort of volatile. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
but it's a beautiful country, and everybody's happy and loving, and
Yeah.
like, yeah, it feels great here.
Yeah, it's such an interesting place to be, really. But a lot to learn, I think.
Yeah, there's
And
a lot to
it
learn.
can, yeah, make you really happy and euphoric one moment and then really down.
Yeah,
I
yes,
remember, I don't know if you went to the Apartheid Museum
that was
in
a
Joburg. Whew.
yes, that was a very heavy museum, I will
Yeah.
say.
I left there and felt I could never be happy again. But yeah, some museums, good museums give you that feeling, I think, sometimes.
I will say that was it's a very well put. So the apartheid museum is a very well put museum.
Mhm.
The emotions definitely, they figured out a way to make you feel every inch of what
Yes.
happened through that time. And
Yeah, I love it. I love the way I love museums. I have to disclaimer, so just stop me if I go off on one. But I love that museum because it's almost, they make it disorientating on purpose, I think, walking through there. Like it's loud in different
yes,
spots. Sometimes you don't know, oh, where am I going? But I think that's on purpose as well. And it's just brilliant the way they set it up. So yeah,
it's a must
definitely
see. Yeah,
must.
it's a heavy one, but you have to go through it. It's kind of like you're hazing.
Exactly.
Let's switch over. You're in Berlin. What's life like in Berlin?
It's nice, especially in the summer. So if you want to visit Berlin, I always say, wait till the summer, because really it's a very different Berlin in the summer compared
Mhm.
to the winter, because it gets really cold. Unless you
Okay.
like the cold, and people, I think a lot of people are really interested in German Christmas markets and just experiencing like proper winter. So if you're into that, yes, come before Christmas. Ideally, you'll have all the nice lights, the Christmas markets, but it's very cold. So I would recommend visiting in summer. It's really, really cool. It's very cool, hip, down to earth place and very special because if you think about most capital cities in Europe, like your Londons, your Paris, I don't know, Rome,
Mhm.
they're always the most expensive cities. Whereas in Germany, it's not the case. I think Berlin, in terms of most expensive German cities, it's not even in the top three.
Wow.
So very special position we're in, which makes it nice to enjoy as well, I think.
Yeah. That I'm gonna move Berlin a little up on my list now, since I know I could save
Yeah.
some change.
To enjoy it. Very creative as well. Lots of art and music.
I love that. Yeah, there's a lot of culture there. How long have you been in Berlin? Just I know you traverse around, but I guess like at one point, how long were you stationed in Berlin?
I mean, yeah, because I grew up here, so I only left when I started studying.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, I was in
Basically,
Berlin my whole
your time.
life, and then yeah, for my studies, I went to London because I also felt like Um, now Berlin has changed a lot. It's super international. I think because so many people see the appeal. But for me, when I was younger, I was always looking to London. It was more multicultural. You know, there were more people who looked like me or my relatives. So I really, that's why eventually I gravitated towards London.
Well, yeah, London is it has the history of being kind of the multicultural and an
Yeah,
epicenter.
super melting pot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Kind of like New York, it's known
exactly.
for it. Berlin, I guess, is still on the up and come.
Yeah, yeah. The little cousin maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Um, okay, so in terms of travel, did you ever do any trips solo? Ever had a solo trip?
Yes, so many.
Okay, so what was your first one? What was that
Um,
like?
It, okay, I don't know how to count it really because technically, I don't know if it counts because I have relatives in London. There's a big Somali community, so I'm not sure if that counts as a proper solo trip going there because you have a
Yeah,
family safety network and
right.
you know the place. So I think my proper like first country I went to all by myself just as a trip was actually Rwanda.
Oh, oh wow.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Which I loved as well. Also has a reputation for being like Kigali, the cleanest city in Africa, I think, and also one of the most safest, which I think is true. Like as a woman walking around at night, you feel very safe. So as a female solo traveler, I think I could recommend Kigali. Yeah, and I was just really interested to see more of the East African region. So at the time, I was like, I really want to go to Rwanda.
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe I'm also interested in places with a difficult history because, yeah, we know Rwanda also has a very difficult history. But yeah, it's very interesting, I think, to learn more about that and yeah, talk to people, engage, and see what the culture is like. And the Genocide Memorial, I think similarly to the Apartheid Museum, is like a must see. You have to go there. But also, when I left that place, I thought I will never be happy ever again in my life because yeah, it's very troubling. But maybe to end on a positive note, it makes it all the more impressive what Rwanda as a country has achieved, I think, because I mean, the genocide was only in 94, which is not a long time ago. And yeah, how they've established themselves, I think, in business, basic services for citizens, women's participation, I think, in the economy, but also politically, it's like one of the highest in the world. It's really amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you definitely go to where the hot spots are,
Yeah, interesting.
especially solo.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was my first one, I think. And then I caught the travel bug. I went to Senegal by myself for the very first time. I went to Botswana by myself. But I try to pick places where I feel like it's safe enough to be as a especially female solo traveler.
Yeah. Okay. No, no, I like that you're traveling safe and also traveling solo. You do learn more about yourself, I think, when you can enter that solo world a little bit, even if you just dip your toes in it. Just
Yeah.
learn.
Do
I
you have a recommendation for me, maybe, if for my next solo trip?
solo, I always recommend Iceland.
Ooh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
I did that was my first solo trip.
Oh, nice.
Uh, it was spectacular.
Yeah.
The people, the scenery, the nature, it's captivating. And I know females who've done it solo, and they said they were 100% safe, didn't feel an ounce of unsurety at all. So I always
Amazing.
recommend Iceland.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, it's on my list. So now it just you bumped it up as well.
The trade-offs, I love it. So outside of Africa, where else have you visited? So any other continents or countries maybe?
Mostly Europe, I would say. I've also been to the States before because I also have relatives there. Like Somalis are everywhere, I'm telling you. Um, yeah, I haven't been to Central and South America yet, so that
Okay,
would be
okay.
something that I would still want to do. And actually, tomorrow I'm going to Vietnam for the very first time, so
Oh
I'm so
wow.
excited to be in Asia.
That sounds exciting. You got to let us all know how that is.
Yeah, I'm so excited. But yeah, before my focus was always, I mean, Europe because travel is so easy. Maybe you also
Yeah.
experience when you're here. People are always jealous that you can literally catch like a 30 € flight somewhere, which is really nice. So I've traveled mostly in Europe and then shifted to Africa and maybe now more Asia. Let's
For
see
Asia,
how it
yeah.
goes. Yeah.
And how long will you be in Vietnam?
2 weeks.
Oh, okay. So it's a nice
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not too bad.
Excited.
Um, do you know your country count or no?
Yes, I do. So, okay, because I always focus on Africa. I know for Africa it's 21.
Okay.
I really would like to visit all 54. I still have a long way to go, but eventually, inshallah. And I think overall it's 37 or 38.
Oh, good. That's
Yeah,
still good.
yeah, I'm getting there.
Once you get to South America and Central America, you'll knock off a lot too, because you can get through
Mm,
fairly easily.
yeah,
Quick
yeah,
flights that kind of take you out. Not bad
that's
though.
cool.
Not bad.
I really wish Africa were more like that. That's really my only, or the thing I hope for, because really traveling from one country to the other, it's so expensive. It's really sad. So I hope
Yeah,
this can change as well.
and I don't know if you noticed this as well, but I did notice that a lot of the requirements to enter into the country change pretty
Mm,
drastically. Like I know Ghana takes a lot to get in,
yeah,
so
true. Yeah. Because
South
sometimes I
Africa.
also, yeah, with my German passport, you probably feel like this with an American passport. If we talk about privilege, often you don't have many issues. And I remember Ghana, I was like, oh, I
Yes.
need a visa.
Exactly. I'm with you. Yeah. I was shocked these I yeah, with the privilege of the passport, I definitely had just kind of like I just walked by, never thought about it.
Yeah,
But
but good on you, Ghana, just to also make us check our privilege sometimes. This is a sad thing as well that I noticed when traveling with some of my colleagues from Africa. Often it was easier for me to get into other African countries compared to them, which
yes.
is also something I hope that will change to make it easier for Africans to travel the continent. And I know that Ghana, I don't know if COVID changed this, but Ghana was one of the first to do visa on arrivals for all Africans, I think,
Oh, okay. Yeah,
which is
I'm not
really cool.
okay.
Doesn't help us right now, but
Yeah, it didn't help in the moment. So
yeah,
I'm proud they have it now. It definitely was a moment just to get into the country. A lot of hoops I had to go through.
yeah,
But it was a great country. I love Ghana.
yeah, me too.
Um, so what's next for you? I know you have a lot on the plate. So what's kind of coming up for yourself?
Good question. Traveling more, so especially
That's
now,
good to hear.
yeah, with a little break from Africa, exploring Asia a little bit more, which I'm very excited about, but then focusing on Africa again because I have this quest to visit all 54 countries, so I need to also get a move on. If I ever want to do that. And then, yeah, documenting more on my YouTube, I would say.
Okay.
For me, now videos, I think, is like a really nice way to share different experiences with people, do some storytelling, get the message out there that, yeah, different African places are just amazing, amazing travel destinations that are often overlooked.
That's very true. And visuals help as well.
Yeah.
Um, how do you feel about the travel influencer space with YouTube? Do you feel it's accepting? Do you feel it's tough to break into? What are your thoughts on it?
Um, Yeah, I haven't been in that space for too long. It's definitely different than compared to your Instagram.
Mhm.
So I feel like YouTube and TikTok, especially, it feels like a very new space that I'm still getting used to. Um, and it takes, yeah, I think it's difficult when you're starting out, but you have to keep at it. And that's what everyone always says, just be consistent. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to do that, but it's sometimes not easy. Especially if you do things on the side, more like
Yeah.
pet projects, I think as well. Um, yeah, my highlight was my Senegal video, which again, because Senegal is such a special place to me, and I really wanted to communicate why it's such an amazing place to visit. That was one video that did really well. So I was happy about that. That was my YouTube highlight so far, I think. Yeah.
We are looking so forward to your growth and your YouTube channel. And also you just spreading the message of the diaspora and uniting people.
And you have an amazing space here as well. Like I said, I think the travel community is so amazing, and
It
yeah,
is.
it's good to exchange and stay connected with people.
It's the one thing AI is not going to take away.
I hope so.
We got something going for us.
Yes.
Um, we like to end off our episodes with these little quirky pay me in plane tickets questions. So keep you on your toes a little bit. It's just a few. So
Okay.
if you had to get paid in plane tickets, which airline are you choosing?
Ooh, that's a good one. Maybe also to shout out again African ownership. I really used to love South African Airways, and I think
Okay.
they're going through a bit of a crisis, and I hope they get back to where they were also before the pandemic. But I think number one would be South African, but maybe while they're
Uh,
reinventing themselves, I think maybe Qatar. I like
Qatar?
Qatar.
Okay. Is it the nice seats, the first class? What do you
It's
loving?
the nice seats. Okay, I can't speak first class. Maybe
Yeah.
one day you could pay me in first class tickets.
All right.
But
Add that to it.
also the food. I think for me, plain food often it's very bland. So
Mm.
I've found that airlines like Qatar, Turkish as well, at least you can taste some spices, which I'm very happy
Yeah.
about.
Actually, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Um, do you have a travel pet peeve?
I do.
What is it? Share it. The dirty
So
secret.
the what do you call that thing? The baggage claim, right? the
Uh-huh.
conveyor belt.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being very German. You can tell me, okay? When people stand too close to it and don't stay behind the line, I hate that so much because everyone's crowding the conveyor belt. No one
Uh,
can see the bags. And
I
if everyone
see.
just took a few steps back, everyone could just see their bags and move forward when your bag comes. I know it's
Okay.
just, yeah, it's me. I
That's a
hate that
first.
so much.
That's a first. That's a first. I never thought of it because I don't think in America there's a line set.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I gotta you know what, I'm gonna keep that in mind when I'm international to
Yeah,
see if
maybe
that's
see if
yeah.
this is really a thing or but I've really yeah, I've had to like stay on my toes to try and see between
Uh,
people if my bag is coming and be like, excuse me, excuse. Maybe it's just a me thing.
when you travel, do you have like a go-to debit card, credit card you use for your points or cash back?
I have I should have mentioned Lufthansa actually as an airline now. I'm a bad German. I also like Lufthansa as an airline. I think they're pretty decent and I use them a lot because they have a direct flight between Frankfurt and Joburg when I lived there. And I have a Miles and More credit card with them.
Okay, nice.
I'm
And
quite happy with.
it satisfies.
Yeah, I'm collecting points. I was able to get upgrades through that before. So
Nice.
if you fly enough, I think it makes sense.
Wonderful, wonderful. So shout out to Lufthansa.
Yeah,
Um, when you travel, are you going hotel or Airbnb?
it really depends.
Okay. On what?
Um, Traveling with friends, for example, for group travel, obviously, like Airbnbs are so much fun because it gives you that kind of home away from home vibe. And also, if I have longer trips, I love to be in an Airbnb to really feel like I live in a place and
Mhm.
have that experience. But for shorter trips, I think then I also had a phase where I got a bit fed up with Airbnbs and I was like, oh, hotel is nice where someone cleans your room and,
Right.
there's new water every day. I don't have to take care of myself as much. So it really depends, yeah, what mode
Okay.
I'm in, maybe.
All right. No, I like it. I can agree with your assessment on when to choose Airbnb or hotel. I can
Yeah.
do that. Are you a carry-on or check bag individual?
I'm a check bag kind of individual, but I'm trying to transition.
You're going through transition.
Yeah, I'm really trying because I'm also not the best person when it comes to traveling light,
Okay.
and I want to improve. And so I've said just doing carry-ons would be a good way to do that.
Okay. So you have your New Year's goal,
Yes,
even though we're 5 months
I can do it.
in. Um, are you a aisle, middle seat, or window individual?
Window.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
as an introvert, I think I just love corners. Same for restaurants. Just put me somewhere in a corner where I feel like I can hide. So I think that's why I love the window seat, aside from having nice views as well.
Okay. We dig it. All right. So
Yeah.
the last one is if you had to travel to one location for the rest of your life, where would it be and
Mhm.
why?
That's a really good one too. I think it would be Zanzibar.
Zanzibar is a hot spot, not only this year, but it's really bubbling. Something's in the
Really,
air.
I
Yeah.
think I think yeah, it's always been and it always will be, to be honest, because it's also a beautiful place. Like it ticks all the boxes, like the crystal clear beaches, like water, amazing food, really amazing warm people, things to do. It's a great spot.
Okay. So Zanzibar for the win.
Zanzibar for the win. And also the mix of cultures. I think you have, your African, Arab, Indian influences, and it's all mixed up. So it's really interesting.
Wonderful. And is the water warm over there? Because I haven't been.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. I'm always checking to make sure the water warm.
yeah. Indian Ocean, I can recommend for like the warmer waters.
Perfect. Sarah, it was so wonderful having you on. I just want to thank you for taking your time out of your day and just joining us and letting us just hear your story, your goals, and your travel likes and dislikes.
You really thank you for having me. It was a great conversation. And like I said, I love this platform. It's so cool. Pay me in plane tickets, best podcast name ever. And I loved all your questions.
Of course, wonderful. So I think it's midday for you. So I guess you're almost about to wind down or whatever it is, but you've earned it. Get your
Almost.
glass of wine and take it in.
Exactly. Yeah, and you start the day. Have a lovely one.
Right. I'm gonna go with some tea, and then I'll make my way to the wine later on.
Good plan.